to the core.
Finally, another podcast about
Godzilla!
and all his giant monster friends.
This could be the end of civilization.
Yeah, probably. So join your hosts, Chris Chikini and Chris Casares.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You're listening to the podcast. From Toho Island. Welcome to the podcast from Toho Island. I am Smooth Chris, or just Chris. Depending on which week it is, I go back and forth. And with me, as always, is the slickest Chris I know.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm just Chris.
Sometimes I'm Chris. Inside joke. You had to be there.
Inside joke we came up with 35 seconds ago before we hit record.
Within the minute.
Yeah.
So we got a good one this week. We're talking about Godzilla versus Destoroyah, as it's been known to me now. I thought it was just Destoroyah with the AH, but I guess there's an extra O in there too.
Yeah, for the I think for the sake of the conversation, we'll just keep saying Destoroyah. But
I'm going to be real awkward about it.
Well, you know, it's too much work to say Destoroyah. See, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
But that's the main course for the appetizer this week. We get some big happenings, possibly the biggest week in OIWF history this week.
It is, because we have a new OIWF World Heavyweight Champion.
The boyhood dream came true. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Bandai Titanosaurus is our champion. A lot of, you know, seem to make the folks on Twitter who follow us on Twitter at Odo Island Pod, where all this sweet Figure Federation stuff happens during the week to keep us entertained when we don't have much else to post about.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like he was getting a lot of support from people. You know, we thought he was the dark horse to win the G54 Impact, and you know, he came up a little short, and he had to kind of go find himself. He's very much our Adam Hangman Page of the OIWF. So
sure, that's a good comparison.
We just, but when we hotshot it, we didn't hotshot him to the title. He earned it by capturing the hearts of our Twitter following, overcoming a very impressive run from Atomic Blast NECA Shin Godzilla.
And NECA Shin Godzilla has been fined for his words following the match. I get it. He's emotional. It's a tough loss for him, but in the OIWF, we can't have that kind of language. So,
yes, no, and we won't repeat that here, but if you go on our Twitter, you can see the video of his, you know,
the unedited video.
His reaction.
Yeah, and we have fined him $17 for his infraction.
That's his current aftermarket value, loose without the raise.
Oh, I'm sure it's up higher than that.
But you know, he'll always, you know,
he'll always be the first.
Yeah, exactly. He was our first champion. You know, the OIWF has kind of become like a nice little steady, fun Twitter distraction. And, you know, he brought us there. You know, it was dark at first, and he brought us there.
He walked through, brother, and came out of the shining light.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, hopefully he goes home, finds a smile, collects himself, but you know, but the new champ, Titanosaurus, is you know, he's here, he's looking to the future.
The champ is lost. Long live the champ. And but that's not all we have going on. Coming up next, we have a Mid-Atlantic title defense.
On Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving Day special in true wrestling fashion.
Right. When I'll have football on and be watching the Silmarillion or be reading the Silmarillion, I will also be putting this together. It is our champion, the second version of Shin Godzilla, better known as Kamata-kun, the Bandai 3-inch figure. They came in those snazzy little box a couple years ago. He'll be defending it against none other than another Bandai figure. It's an inter Bandai challenge for the Mid-Atlantic Championship against none other than Godzilla Earth.
Oh boy! But not only that. I mean, how do you contain a match of this magnitude? Smooth.
Oh, there's only one way you can do it: to ensure that no one interferes and that this match doesn't hurt anybody else. Too, it'll be confined inside a steel cage.
Oh,
the AWA steel cage, nonetheless.
My word.
I've been looking at, and it feels like it's a really good, proportionate terrarium for them.
Very good, because it is minifigures, so that's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's the Thanksgiving tradition. What do you think? The poll will only be up for Thanksgiving Day itself. We'll have our winner by Thanksgiving night. Yeah.
Well, I'll have this stuff going on to gear people up. The results itself will go up on Thanksgiving night, pending a turkey coma, which I may or may not have fallen into.
I mean, the poll will just run Thanksgiving Day. We can get to the fig photography, whatever. that's all I meant. I was thinking maybe on Thanksgiving Eve, maybe there could be like a little warm up, maybe a little 3-on-3 action, perhaps.
Trios.
Maybe, yeah. Nice little lighthearted fun. I think the Trendmasters of the Universe are scratching to compete as a trios on Thanksgiving Eve. So we'll see about that. We'll see how that goes.
They want to show their quality.
That's right. They want to remind you that they are literally the most popular thing we do on Twitter. So you got to give the people what we want. So
you gotta give the people what they want.
So that's what I've learned. More Trendmasters of the Universe, fine with me. The fact that we have a heel stable made of Trendmasters figures makes my day.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. You can take care of that one. I'll take care of the cage match.
The main event right there.
Yeah, and that way each match has their own commissioner to ensure safety.
Yeah. So, fantastic stuff. Follow along on Odo Island Pod on Twitter. I will also just be at home on Thanksgiving, probably watching football and.
That's what I'm saying. So this stuff will be fun to do. Just instead of just lethargically sitting there drinking beer and watching football. And I will be reading the Silmarillion because I've never read it before, and I've been on a New Zealand Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit kick lately, gearing up for our Peter Jackson's Kong on Kong Christmas. I've been watching every Peter Jackson movie that I can. I may or may not watch Dead Alive. I've never been too overly fond of that one, but I watched The Frighteners. I watched pretty much any Peter Jackson movie I've been down to watch, and yeah, I need to read that, and I need to go watch Kong again. I can't wait for that.
Kong Christmas is around the corner, but
it's the episode that I pretty much wanted to do this podcast because of.
Yeah, I'm getting fucked up for that episode, but anyway, but also good segue with figures. I guess we could segue to some figure. Well, I don't know if we call it. Oh, yeah, we'll call it news. There was an interview related to Playmates, our favorite.
Yeah, everyone's favorite.
So, to give a little setup here, I want to make sure I credit this appropriately, even though... Okay, yeah. So, Toho Kingdom, I want to make sure they also conducted the interview. So, Toho Kingdom, fantastic website. Been around for a long time. Great old school resource of Godzilla information out there. They conducted an interview with John Stelzner, the vice president of marketing at Playmates Toys. And Chris, do you know the interviewer's name?
Oh, it seems to be Chris Merja-Hangier, but we'll just call him Chris.
Good job. So what I really appreciate is, and you and I both had a chuckle about this, that right out the gate, I'm just pulling it up here now. Right out the gate,
he's not making friends here.
He just said, So I'll just read it because I won't do it justice. Could you confirm if any of the molds for some of these releases were the same molds used by other companies? For example, NECA's Shin Godzilla and Jax's Large Godzilla, etc. I like that, like, right out the gate, pulling no punches about this whole, like, what is the deal with your toys looking like subpar versions of other existing toys? And the answer is kind of, I don't know. He just says, all of our products and molds are proprietary to Playmates toys.
Yeah, proprietary means they own the rights to them. That doesn't necessarily mean
exactly.
That's all that
means.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they created them themselves.
Yeah, just completely just wanting to dodge that, and then diving into like how they basically redistribute some Bandai figures. But
yeah. No, and that's fine. They have the right to do that if they buy the molds or they buy the rights to the figures. Like, they have the right to distribute them. That's not what we're debating here. I don't think there's much of a controversy in stealing the NECA Shin Godzilla body, because they sure as shit didn't steal the head.
That part got stuck in the fax machine that Toho sent them. But props to Mr. Miyachahangadir for just calling them right out right off the bat. When I read that, I was like, oh, I would buy that guy a beer for asking that question. Yeah, right off the bat.
he's not trying to be friendly with them. He's like coming right off the bat, like, these are the questions. He says at the bottom too, like, thank you to these guys, these collectors, for pitching some of the questions that were asked.
Yeah, he also kind of like zings them again towards the end, where he's like, "Why do you keep using the vinyls for the Bandai sculpts, yet doing hard plastic for everything else?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh man."
And maybe these are things that need to be told to them, because maybe they're in a bubble and they're not getting this information. But yeah, this interview is, for the most part, there's not too much going on here. There's some little snippets here and there, but I think John Stelzner is one of those guys who knows marketing jargon and knows how to say nothing with a lot of words. And that's why I was never popular at my old job, because I was like, just make it clear and concise. That way everyone knows what you're talking about. And, oh boy, that did not go over well. People want that word salad going on for some reason.
But he does drop three interesting nuggets, I guess, and that's one that they have the rights to produce any Toho Godzilla character. So, like,
and that's awesome.
Yeah, so there could be a bunch of Showa figures, Hesei figures, whatever.
They did also say that they want to put out characters that either are underrepresented or not represented at all.
Right.
So I think that's good. I hope they're quality figures, considering they're moving over to vinyl, as we've learned from this interview. Yeah. But, like, it'd be cool to get some like random monsters that you haven't seen in a while. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing an Orga, you know?
Yeah. He did say the only two that he confirmed were we're going to get a Burning Godzilla, which is very topical for this episode, and Jet Jaguar.
Yes.
So, Jet Jaguar, like, again, the Jet Jaguar is kind of like popular these days, but did not expect that to be like the one they're kind of leading with.
When was the last time you saw a Jet Jaguar figure? Maybe like 2004 when the video game came out with him in it?
So Jet Jaguar is actually a pretty underrepresented character when it comes to figures, right? I mean, like, yeah, you get like a variety of like, well, actually no, there's not even like a lot of like minifigs or whatever. Like, I'm trying to think offhand. There's some the original Bandai one is pretty hard to get. There's some like highly collectible like Jet Jaguar variants. Like, there's like one where he's like all white with like a red cross on it. That was like, I forget what the background to that was. Like, whether it was part of like some fundraiser or something. But yeah, Jet Jaguar merch kind of lacking. So
here's what you do, Playmates. All right, and I've thought about this. You take you get one of those like 12-inch Jet Jaguars, 12-inch tall, like the Jax Godzilla or your Godzilla or your Jax Godzilla, and you get the 12-inch one, and then you make a 6-inch one, and then you make a 3-inch one. And you put it all together, and it's 3 Jet Jaguar figures that you can like do the figure photography where you have the little one, then you have the medium one, then you have the big one, and you can make it look like he's growing.
Yeah, it can be like what are those like Russian doll things called, where it's like you open one and the smaller doll comes out like that.
But I don't know how you fit them all in together, so that's why I'm just like, just make 3 of them and have like put them in front of each other in the packaging so you can see them all. But like Release It All as one is like a 3-in-1 pack. You could sell that for $20, and I'd buy the shit out of it.
Yeah. The 2 smaller ones don't even need articulation if you need to save money somewhere.
No, they all should look the same.
Yeah.
You don't want any discrepancies when you're going from bigger to smaller or smaller to bigger. You want them all to look the same.
Yeah, exactly. And then just the last thing that he said of note was that the Godzilla vs. Kong line is going to remain exclusive to Walmart, but everything else they produce is going to be available in Target as well, which I thought was pretty exciting.
I hate this exclusivity shit in certain stores. I hate it. It just drives up the price, and it makes it so there are distribution problems, and it just sucks. I hate it. Put your shit in as many stores as you can get it in, and make enough of them so that everyone can get them.
Yeah, it was interesting thing I heard on another podcast. I don't remember which one off the top of my head. I'm going to guess it was the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, where like take a shot. Where they were talking with somebody who like works. Maybe it was related to Jazz Wares and the AEW figures or not. But they were talking with somebody who works like in the toy industry, and they were just saying like the way things are now, like without like a Toys R Us around and stuff like that, where it's like, your toy aisle is like Walmart and Target, that like what leads to like, there's a variety of reasons why they like so many companies have like distribution problems, but like basically if you are not Marvel or Star Wars, like most retailers do not want to give up like any row of pig space to take away from like Marvel superheroes or like Star Wars merchandise.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just, I think, that exclusivity stuff, like, that's...
And Toy Story, too. That's the other one. That you'll stores are stocked with enough of those items to last for a decade. Like, you go there and you just see nothing for other things, and then you just see nothing but wall-to-wall, full-stock Star Wars, full-stock Marvel stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's, just in mass quantities. But, I mean, so that's cool. I mean, I'm glad that it's expanding. I'm glad it sounds like maybe around April-ish we'll be getting Godzilla 95 and Jet Jaguar. Then he says that there'll be a few new monsters for fall of 2021 that they can't announce yet. It also says that it's going to be all of their original molds from here on out. They're designing all their own. So hopefully we get more like Final Wars Gigan and the Kong stuff. The King Kong molds have been good. The smaller one, yeah. Smaller ones, yeah. I agree. Those two are by far the head of the pack in terms of Playmates figures. Some of them are okay in quality. Like, they're not bad. And you got to figure if you're paying $10 for these at Walmart, you can't expect them to be that great. Like, that's why the Godzillas are like, they are what they are. I wouldn't call them necessarily bad or anything, but they're not nearly as good as Bandai or Deco were, for that matter. Yeah. So what's interesting to that is, like, as we can now say, friend of the pod, Shinrab Jira did his video review. At the time of this recording, it came out last night. His review of Final Wars Gigan. I have not watched it yet. I feel bad. I did see it come up, and I do want to watch it because, again, that was the figure that I saw at Walmart, and there were two of them, and I'm like, we got him. So he did his he did his homework, and that Playmates Gigan mold is original. Like, he could not find like any mold that it could perhaps be based on. And so, it's like when Playmates tries, they can do it. Like, Well, Playmates has
They
been
can
around
do it
forever.
really well.
And, like, all those Ninja Turtles you had as a kid, those were all
Yeah,
Playmates.
they looked good. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not knocking them as a company. Like, they do good stuff. We're just knocking some of their like some of their quality has been very, very suspect on their Godzilla line so far.
Yeah. I actually didn't think the Final Wars Godzilla is that bad. It's still like goofy, but it's I don't know. It's fine. It's fine,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
But give us more Gigan and Kong style
Agreed.
quality. And that'll be, that'll do. Give me a Gabra figure. If you're doing Jet Jaguar, make a Gabra figure while you're at it.
I wouldn't mind a Baragon.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't mind an entire GMK line from them. Just so
Yeah, he does say they are doing another Godzilla that they have not done yet
like
for the fall.
I would love all the monsters from GMK just so I could have its own little display somewhere in my room where it's just Godzilla facing off against all three of the Guardian monsters.
I think that's what we're going to hope for, and I just can't wait till we get a 12-inch Son of a Godzilla sculpt with a Minya figure, and then we'll all just be bummed out. So,
What about a junior? We need a junior figure.
that's a great segue.
Yeah.
To talk about the movie, I guess.
Yes.
Kind of blanked there on how to segue it. I don't know if that's what you were setting me up for, but
Yeah, I mean, Junior in this movie, he's probably the best looking version of him so far.
Yeah. All right. So shall we get to the main course here, as you put it?
Yeah, dinner served. I think we can dive in. Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, the end of the Hesei series. I remember as a kid, like, everyone was just talking about, oh, this is the movie where Godzilla dies. They never called it Godzilla vs. Destroyer. They're just saying, oh, Godzilla dies in this movie. That's all I ever heard of it.
Yes. So let us set the table here. So, yes, as you said, the final movie of the Hesei series comes out in 1995. This is Toho said, we just kind of ran out of ideas, but really they were just handing this movie off to TriStar to, to start what they were kind of hoping was going to be a new American franchise. And I think at the time, I guess, like, Japanese cinema, from what I understand, was like not like, or at least like Japanese produced and made movies were not really, like, I don't want to call it slump, but they certainly weren't like making the money that like overseas movies were making in Japan. But Godzilla was still profitable, even though Space Godzilla didn't do as well as other movies had done. But the gist of how things were going in 1995 is that Godzilla was talking about Star Wars and Marvel, like, Godzilla was a merchandising machine in the mid-90s, and so it broke down to be that the average Godzilla movie took about $10 million to make, made about $30 million, but would do $150 million in merch in the same year. So Toho figured, we can save money on making the movies, they probably still just rake in like the equivalent in merchandising, which, $150 million, that's a pretty sizable chunk, and I think that is just in Japan. I don't know if that's worldwide or just Japan, but
I commend them for reserving themselves and not being like, oh yeah, never leave a cent to the table, so even though it's not that much, we'll make another movie and we'll make a couple bucks off of it. No, space it out more, pace yourselves, and make sure it's a good effort, and then that way, that 10 million might be 40 or 50 million instead. You'll still make the 150 on merchandising anyway, but also the public won't tire or think less of the brand as a whole. So it's actually better to do it that way in the long term.
Yeah, and I don't think like that term, like the quest to sell toys and stuff like that. I don't think the '90s Godzilla series ever got like that. I mean, they certainly merchandised the shit out of every single movie, but I never got the impression that they were doing stuff in the movies just to sell toys. But that said, you were going to get, like, I think we talked about, like, the Space Godzilla episode. Like, I feel like there was a merchandise explosion going on at that point. It was like everything like you could get like a million different Godzilla and Space Godzilla figures, or just all sorts of things were being merchandised. But I never thought that impacted the quality of the movies. But yeah,
well,
so
I just mean the frequency that they're released. They're released once a year, every year. Maybe over the course, we're getting towards the end of the Hesei series, so maybe over the course of those years, people are like, "Oh, another Godzilla movie." Yeah, but the last one wasn't that great. Like I didn't like it as much as I like these other movies. Things like that. So
yeah, it was
maybe the perception kind of drops.
I think, I think they kind of we haven't done Mechagodzilla yet, but it was like,
No.
you had like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, then you had Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, and kind of getting into like the ideas there was like a lot of ideas kicked around for this movie before it got to like the Godzilla versus Destoroyah concept, and like the most developed one was going to be Godzilla versus Ghost Godzilla, or just Godzilla versus Godzilla. So you're going to have 3 movies in a row where it was Godzilla versus blank Godzilla, right? So, I'll nutshell that, but like, because I don't want to spend too much time on the projects that were pitched that were shot down, but like that was probably the most developed of them. And that one was like, the ghost of the 1954 Godzilla was going to start like appearing. I think because like the bones were stolen, kind of like a concept that was going to be like Godzilla X Mechagodzilla, but not stolen, but they were like lifted from the sea, and then like ultimately the ghost would possess Godzilla Jr. And it was like a whole thing. There was like variants to the script, and like one version had the Hesei Godzilla like being killed like in the first like third of the movie by like the Japanese military. It seems like a really anticlimactic way to write that character out, and then Godzilla Jr. goes on to ultimately conquer the Ghost Godzilla at the end, and be the new Godzilla. But it was just like a really like silly idea. I'm glad that was abandoned. But yeah, so like you said, like this is the movie where Godzilla dies, right? So it's like this got like CNN coverage, like New York Times coverage, like it was like worldwide coverage, and in turn, it did turn into a very successful movie for Toho. It almost, I think, broke records at the time for one of like the most attended Godzilla movies in the franchise. But I remember like I had like my first copy of this was a bootleg that I got probably like in 1996 or something like that, and the company that used to buy like the bootleg tapes from, like they would kind of put a bunch of extras on at the end of the tape, and some of it was like the local news coverage, and there was like a bunch of like interviews with like older Japanese people who were just like, oh, I saw the original in like the 50s, and I haven't seen any since, but I feel like I gotta like say goodbye. And so like it was like a lot of stuff like that of like old people like going in teary-eyed, and
this one's kind of a tearjerker though.
Let's get into it. If you have seen this before, right?
Yeah, you've showed me this one before.
Okay. Have we like watched the whole thing, or we just watched like the end? Or, the fight?
I think we fast forwarded until like it's Destoroyah appearing, because I remember seeing that stuff, and like when Destoroyah is tiny, and then like the fight with Junior, and then the fight as he's fully developed and developed. I don't know how you describe the final form of Destoroyah.
Yeah, I think it's I guess he just evolves. I don't know.
Because he starts off little, and then there's many of him, but they all come together to form a bigger version of that, but it's still kind of small. And then the small one gets his ass whooped and then becomes the bigger one.
Yes, and then he whips ass all around.
Yes. He does kind of whip ass a little bit during that time. He impales Junior.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess the broad synopsis of this movie is that essentially Godzilla is melting down, and
it just looks so cool. Like
yes,
the orange, and one of my favorite.
Burning up from the inside.
Yeah. I feel bad we didn't watch this with Dan because I think he would have given us a lot of insight on like the aquariums used and stuff. He would add some real good insight on the tanks and stuff, and I feel like we're losing that.
I do actually have one last trivia point about that. So, like, a good chunk of this movie takes place kind of like around this like Bayside area, like there's like the aquarium and all that stuff. Like there was supposed to be a World's Expo fair there in 1996. So like, but it was canceled by the Tokyo leadership because they just said, oh, it's going to be a waste of taxpayer money. But so because it was canceled, like a lot of businesses that were going to move in there, like didn't, and it was like a lot of like empty office space, and like it used to be like a thing with these 90s Godzilla movies that like companies would go to Toho and say like, hey, like can we have like a billboard that gets like knocked over, or like can our building be featured like in like one of like the scenes, because there's just like cool advertising for them. So
yeah, the
development group behind that area was like, hey, can like, you know, like whatever, can you just factor out this, like we'll give you money to factor this area into the movie. And so like, you know, Toho took the money, and you know, that's why like, so some of the action scenes happen like the Destroyers, like, and like when they're tiny, and like the aquarium, or like I think the building that Junior gets dropped in during the final fight when final form Destroyer drops him through the building. I think that was where the expo center was like supposed to be, I think. And it was like a way just to try to be like, hey, look, we're featured in this Godzilla movie, and please still come here. But I don't really know how that worked out. I think from what I read, I think those buildings like stood vacant for, not completely vacant, but I think it was very underdeveloped for a long time. I thought that was kind of funny. I didn't really know that prior to this, but
yeah. Well, like I said, yeah, we're missing that analysis from Dan too with the tanks. I feel like when they set off the oxygen destroyer and the fish evaporates, Dan could talk about that whole scene for like 5 minutes and let us know what the deal was.
Let us know how much those fish are worth.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, it's kind of meant to, you know, this is like a movie of two halves, or to me, it's like a movie of two halves. The first half of the movie, where it's like the, you know, grandchildren, niece, nephew, whatever, of Dr. Yamane and Emiko Yamane from the first Godzilla movie, and it's like they're all kind of like laboring over like whether scientist dude should, I don't know, make essentially a new version of the oxygen destroyer, while simultaneously they're also like talking about how the oxygen destroyer has mutated life on the seabed and has given rise to this new creature.
Right.
And I feel like that goes on for eternity throughout this movie. But
I'll be honest, I always thought the pace of this movie, or I thought the pace of this movie was really good. You need a little bit more exposition in the beginning, but like you got Godzilla attacking right off the bat with his new form, and then you sort of get more along the lines of like the exposition, the human part. It was all done really seriously too. It wasn't like jokey or cartoony. Like there was no character that had like a really weird like physical feature. Like he wasn't eating. No one showed up eating a banana. You know what I mean? Like it was just done
complaining about their corns.
Exactly. It was done more seriously and more like naturally. Like there weren't any high school students working with a high school teacher on black holes or anything like that. It was just like a totally believable scenario with this science fiction, you know, monster and as the background. So I always feel like the best Godzilla movies do that, where you know, it's always fun to take it less seriously and have like almost like a horror comedy concept going on with it. But when it's just strictly just this fantasy element in a believable world, and everyone acts and behaves normally, and you can sort of like see where all the characters are coming from and believe it. Those lay the groundwork for the best movies, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and that's what this movie really does.
Yeah, I guess I like that the two main characters are like Dr. Yamani's family. I like that like Emiko returns, and apparently she's so traumatized from what happened in the 1954 movie that like we learned she never married Ogata. She's still living in her father's house.
Mm-hmm.
Like I liked how like there was like the when they go into like Dr. Yamani's room, like there's like the only like framed or one of the only framed pictures in there is of Dr. Serizawa.
Yep.
I liked all that. Like I was saying, like the Oxygen Destroyer thing is just like they spend so much time talking about whether like you should use this sort of technology again or not, and how like this is the thing that stopped the first Godzilla in 1954. That like it just doesn't really matter because at the end of the day they just kind of go with this like plan that I feel like is kind of developed off screen for the most part, where they're just like, oh yeah, we gotta like freeze Godzilla or like lower his temperature.
Right.
Cool. Let's do that with like the Super X3 that is just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
And
literally.
Hey, I didn't even realize I did that. And,
should I get a camera? That's always like a Philadelphia pun joke. But yeah. The plan they actually go with is actually smarter in my opinion. Like, why would you drop it? Because you dropped the Oxygen Destroyer to kill them, but Godzilla just showed back up anyway. So like, why are you going to do it again? You're just going to keep on having to do this. But the freezing while he's melting down is a good idea, and it worked kind of.
Well, actually, I guess there's like multiple plans being hatched in this movie, right? Because like you have the freezing plan, the Oxygen Destroyer plan, and then in the middle, you have Miki Sagusa in the other telepath who's like went to school in America, so she has like that like shitty American attitude to her, where like she doesn't give a shit about consequences apparently, and their plan is to like draw Godzilla Jr. to it's not Mickey's plan, but to use the psychics to draw Godzilla Jr. to Tokyo to fight Destoroyah, to get Godzilla like
the big Godzilla to follow him.
Yes. Yeah. So everyone's hatching plans here of dubious quality.
So, but eventually, yeah, they make Junior fight Destoroyah, and that's about probably a little bit past the halfway point of the movie. And then from here on in, it's just pretty much Godzilla and Destoroyah fighting in one form or another, whether it's Junior against the smaller ones, and then the bigger, smaller one, the medium-sized one.
Yeah,
and then eventually, Burning Godzilla gets there, and he fights the smaller version, or the medium-sized version, then the bigger version. Wait, no, it's just the bigger version that he fights, right?
Godzilla just fights the bigger version.
Yeah, that's right, because Junior's the one that kind of ends him. But Junior gets impaled. Like, did you notice that Destoroyah in this movie has, like, this devilish design, but he also has, like, the xenomorph thing going from Aliens?
Yeah, it's almost like... It's like, especially when... We're kind of jumping around a little bit, like the Destoroyah fights, but it's like when Destoroyah in the smallest form fights, or one of the smallest forms fights the military, like, that's, like, straight up, like, xenomorph alien shit. He's like coming out of like the rafters, but he looks like, and I was like, he kind of looks like a combination of the Predator, the Devil, and like the Xenomorph. So,
and also when he's got his mouth closed, he kind of looks like when Homer Simpson has a bunch of hot dogs stuck in his mouth. His mouth is like overflowing with them.
That kind of ruins that design, I guess, a little bit for me, but. But I think overall, he's one of the coolest looking enemies the franchise has.
Like, 100%. Yeah.
Oh my god!
It's so much different from all the other forms. I guess the most similar would be Biollante, but they're not even close to being similar. In my opinion, Destoroyah is one of the cooler designs of any Godzilla enemy, and dare I say, his second most dangerous foe.
The first being humanity. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I would say Mechagodzilla is probably has the most successful track record against Godzilla, but
All right.
Different topic. I guess,
I feel like GODZILLA drew the most money making the towns with him.
he did.
You know?
So yes, when Geeter is working on top, that's where he made the most money. It was gold for a reason, all right. But yeah, we're talking about figures a lot, obviously. On this podcast, Destoroyah is without a doubt the most toyetic figure, and in my personal collection, like I'm looking around right now, like some of the best looking figures in my collection are like high quality, like Destoroyah figures. Like he's just such a great design.
Agreed.
Even though he has like the weird xenomorph alien second jaw thing going on in the second form, but the flying design was cool too. And you only see the flying design for like a little bit. I always liked that one.
Mm-hmm. Well, when he's smaller too, he's more like crab-like. I guess they said he morphed out of the Oxygen Destroyer, altering like a microbe, which will look like a little. If you look through a microscope at like tap water or something like that, you always see him in there,
right?
And like they're microscopic, so you can't see them unless you're looking at them through a microscope. But like that altered into a bigger form, so that's why it's always like changing and stuff. So that helps explain like the rapid changing that he goes through. But when he's smaller, he's more like tank crab like. You know what I mean? Like he has more of like a tank form, and then like when he's bigger, it's just total on like huge wings and like completely different, basically.
Yeah. I also like how the Oxygen Destroyer mutated these microbes and created this like species that could like probably destroy the world if Godzilla does not intervene, and completely undermining Dr. Serizawa's sacrifice about how, and totally saying he was justified not wanting to use the Oxygen Destroyer because it could be the true destroyer of the world in 1954, but that's all right.
Yeah.
He wasn't around to see it, so it's okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. We do get it's I don't love the first chunk of this movie. I feel like it's a little dull, spending so much time talking about micro oxygen to then not really have it be really part of the climax, I guess, in the end. And
yeah.
But that said, once like that first Godzilla Jr. fight with Destroyer happens, and then you get like, the very emotional. It's a tearjerker for the last like 35-40 minutes, I would say. Yeah,
Godzilla sees their child who's dead because the bigger version came and killed him.
Yeah, tries to breathe life into him, fails. Yep. Just the whole thing. It's just it's a gut punch. It's a gut punch. Yeah. The music's very good during that whole.
Oh yeah, the score is excellent. The score is excellent in this movie.
Yeah, just really get you good.
It didn't get me, but it was good to watch. I could feel the emotion without actually. Yeah, I could feel the emotion without actually physically responding to it. But
so I'll give a little background though for me with like I feel like the last 30-ish minutes is like very like emotional to me, even still at 36. Is that like when I got this bootleg, when I got the video of this, like news was not trickling out like all too. The internet was not what the internet is now, right? So like.
You could look this up on Web TV.
You could look this little shit up, but you couldn't get like the full story as to what was going on back then in like 1996. But like I knew the tagline was "Godzilla dies," right? Like, so I knew that. I knew that like Toho is making it sound like they're going to kill Godzilla off, but like they kind of did the same thing. With Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, they like tease that like Godzilla was probably going to die in the movie, then he doesn't. So like watching the movie, like I didn't know at the time how like what the ending to the movie actually was, and it was like one of those things that I just kept thinking. It's like no, like he's not going to die. Like something weird is going to happen, and he's going to like pull through and live. And then not only does he die, he just like fucking melts away like in front of you. And I
which
was
is
saying, like,
which they did perfectly because it was both grotesque and yet oddly beautiful.
yeah, it's got like this like great music underneath it.
It's got like an ethereal choir, just like while he slowly melts into this goo, and his skeleton's just kind of there underneath it.
It's the last like sad roar that like breaks me like every single time, and then like all like the orange radiation, whatever, like comes out of him like as he then melts away, and then I'm like, holy shit! Like this is like a lot for me to still process. Even talking about it, I feel my emotions starting to swell inside of me. And then like I'm just like, oh my god, like he just thinks his son is dead. Like this is like his like last thought. Like this is like his last like 15 minutes, right? Not being able to revive his son, who just got murdered in front of him, and then like melting away. And it's just it's a gut punch, emotional gut punch.
So another way to look at this too is much like how after in King of the Monsters, spoiler alert coming through, the 2019 version, when Ghidorah kills Mothra, and Mothra sort of sacrifices herself to lend her power to Godzilla. The same could be said for this, where Godzilla is willingly dying so that he can put his energy into his son so he can live.
Yeah. Hopefully he knew he was doing that.
Yes.
I don't think he did. So that's why it's still sad to me. Yeah, it's like, but yeah, then you get the whole like, yes, the last scene is Junior has absorbed the radiation and he becomes Godzilla.
And his spikes are all grown in and...
Yeah, and it's actually the same... suit is the burning Godzilla suit, except they just turned the lights off, so it's not glowing orange.
Yeah.
But and you know, SH Monster Arts actually made a Godzilla Junior adult Godzilla figure. They call it like Godzilla Rebirth. And all it was just a repaint of their burning Godzilla figure. So,
there you go.
So we get, I think, as far as I know, it's the only Godzilla Junior as like the new Godzilla figure, I think, that's out there. But I just like that it's just like a repaint of like an existing figure. Which
does it come with all the smoke in that scene?
Nope. You gotta supply your own dry ice. It's like too bad though that like we never got a continuation of that series of Godzilla movies with like Godzilla Jr. being the new Godzilla. Like I'm actually like surprised like there's never been any like that's it. Like, you know, even like the comics that I feel like will like pick out the most obscure character to like write stuff around or whatever. Like this Godzilla or Junior, just that was it. That's all you got was that and a repaint SH Monster Arts figure.
And a gold watch and a kick in the butt and say, a computer took your job, daddy.
Yep. It's just when they brought back the Millennium series, they said, no, we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to put some purple spikes in a big new Godzilla and just call it something different. But I don't know. I thought it would have been cool if they had some sort of story continuation with that. But
yeah, it would have been cool. But in Millennium Godzilla's defense, I thought purple spikes are cool.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the design was cool. I think you could have easily, oh, whatever. I guess the Millennium series couldn't have gone the way it did if you tried to tie it back to this franchise. But I don't know. It was, that made me feel slightly better. Because, I mean, he's basically like the Showa, like, superhero Godzilla is what Junior is. So I was like, oh, cool. Maybe we'll get, like, a whole bunch of, like, good guy Godzilla adventures. But guess not.
No.
Guess not.
So, but take solace in the fact that Junior's one movie where he actually does stuff as like a giant monster is a good one, and he kicks a little butt, you know.
Yep, kicks a little ass, takes a little names. You know, he always gets to go down as the best son of Godzilla, without a doubt. Not even close. No,
that's how I feel about it too. He looks similar too, like he looks right. He just doesn't have the spikes yet. That's his only, like, he's smaller and he doesn't have the spikes.
Yeah, they're growing. Yeah, the little nubs. But then he gets them in a big way. But I take it back. It's him and, I guess, actually, the Godzilla of the series. Son of Godzilla is probably the best Godzilla kid. I'm going with that. I take it back. But he's number 2. He can be number 2. Yeah, I don't know. Much else to say about this one before we rank it up?
Yeah, I don't have much to say about it either. I actually no, I'll take that back. The one thing I noticed is when they had like giant monster background and foreground scenes, they were done really well on this movie. Big improvement on previous efforts, especially Space Godzilla.
Oh boy, yes, definitely.
I feel like whatever they did to change that really paid off because, like, well, you can still tell it's dated. It looks way better than it previously did, and I give them credit for that. Like, they definitely took like actual foreground stuff and put it in front of like a background, but maybe they did it on a computer instead of with projection, and it just came out looking better.
Yeah, they still do like there's some bad effects though in this movie. It's like
sure,
it's just like it's like the '90s series is so guilty of this. Like whenever something flies, it's so stiff looking. It's so stiff looking.
It looks a lot like how like claymation flying stuff looked in the '80s, and it's that saying like different lighting. Like you could tell these are two separate objects type of thing going on.
Yeah, or it's like when the final form Destoroyah is flying. It's just like the suit's just kind of tipped forward. The wings don't flap a lot.
Yeah.
It's just that always drove me nuts for like the 90s Godzilla series. Because like in the Showa series, you did this so much better. Like, like Mothra has like the same problem in the 90s series. Like you did such a good job with Mothra in the 60s. It just looks stiff,
yeah.
Yeah, and then... like, I don't know if you caught it, but, like, when Godzilla and Junior are first meeting at, like, the airport, like, just because the suit for Junior to be in scale Godzilla, like, they couldn't use the suit. It's a smaller prop that's, like, kind of being pulled. And then, like, when Destoroyah, like, first appears and, like, he blasts, like, the both of them, like, it's a quick shot, but you see the Junior suit, whatever it is, like, just spin smoothly, like off screen, like it just like because it's just like a model, like on like or not a model, but like a smaller statue, like on like a board. So it just like slides like it's on ice, and it's a really quick scene, right? It's like one of those like the stormtrooper like hitting his head in the door to New Hope. It's like one of those like kind of quick things, but like. I see it every time I watch that scene, and it drives me nuts. And it's just like, I'm like, why did you do that? Like, you didn't have to do that. Like, that looks awful. But it's just like little stuff like that. But then on the flip side, like when Godzilla's going nuts, like towards the end, and he's like, right before like Destoroyah is killed, there's like the bajillion explosions going off, like when Godzilla's firing his ray like over and over and over again. I'm like, oh yeah, that shit's awesome. Like that's great.
I think for the most part, this movie looks good, though. When Destoroyah is smaller too, and like hunting the people, like I always thought that looked a little hokey. It reminded me of I don't know if you've ever seen the first Hellraiser, but at the end there's this like weird demon chasing them as they're trying to leave the house, and it always reminded me of like how like it's a cool design, but like it doesn't come off the best in actuality. It's similar to that.
Yeah. That's a good comparison. Yeah, it's a little... Yeah, like, the funny... Like, I don't know. The funny scene to me in that one is, like, when, like, the little Destroyer gets outside, and, it's, like, attacking, Dr. Yamani's granddaughter, whose name escapes me. Like, well, she's, like, in the police car, and then it's, like, just, like, jumping on the police car, and then it splits the police car apart, and then it's just kind of bobbing around, chasing after her. Yeah. Like, it looks like okay, but also like kind of silly at the same time.
Yes.
But it's, I don't know. It's, I try to remember, like, you know what? It's all a step up from Space Godzilla. So that's, I guess,
100%.
Probably the way to put it. But, and like, the last, like, random thing that like, popped in my head, this is such like a random, like, little thought, but like, when they talk about like the Super X3 and they're like, oh, who's piloting the Super X3? And they're like, oh, some new and up and coming pilot. And then it cuts to the guy, whatever, who's the pilot, whose also name escapes me. But, like, he's supposed to be, like, I don't think they ever say his name, like, in the movie. I think it's only, like, in the credits. And, like, it's the same character who was, like, the same pilot of the Super X2 in Godzilla vs. Biollante. Yeah, I think he's the same pilot. And it's the same pilot of the Super X2 in Godzilla vs. Biollante. And, like, I don't know if you're just supposed to know that. Because, like, the actor's not the same. It's actually the Biollante actor's actual real-life brother playing him. So, like, because they did it in such a way that I was like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to know who this is. And I was like, but he doesn't look like... He looks kind of like somebody. And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, so he's that character. I guess I could see that. Then I was like, wait, it's his brother. Not even the original actor, which I thought was like... I was like, why did you do that? Like, I don't know, maybe they're more popular in Japan and you're just supposed to you would have just got that, but that was like a little lost on me. I thought that was
I never knew that at all. I would have never known that.
Yeah. I mean, why would you? You know? Like,
exactly. How could I?
Well, actually, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, but we have been kind of watching the Hesei movies out of order, but so this is kind of also the end of, like, Miki Sagusa's story in the Godzilla franchise. She's, like, one of the only, like, characters that makes multiple appearances in Godzilla movies. And, I don't know. Do you feel like you're familiar with her enough now at this point to, like... I know we're missing a few critical movies that develop her character, but...
I have never seen the Hesei Space Godzilla movie. I don't know if she's in that.
Yeah, she's in that.
Okay, yeah, then it's not. I don't have the full effect.
Space Godzilla or Biollante? Because we just did Space Godzilla.
I've seen Space Godzilla. I'm saying I haven't seen the Mecha Godzilla. Sorry.
Mecha. Okay. Yeah. No. I misspoke. So she's in Biollante, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Mecha Godzilla, Space Godzilla, and Destoroyah. Finally.
Okay.
So I guess maybe we actually have more to watch.
Yeah.
So I guess you're getting her story out of order.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess in this movie she's a little bit more of like a bit role where she's kind of just like advocating for Junior.
Like I definitely picked up on that, and like the other girl's like, "This is no time for sentimentality. Like we need to do this," and she just kind of goes along with it. Like, I like her. She's cool.
Yeah, she was. Oh, yeah. I guess maybe that was a little premature to ask you that because we do have more Hesei movies to watch, and she has a bigger role in Biollante and Mechagodzilla. She's kind of Mothra too, I guess, but she's kind of like a bit role in like King Ghidorah, Space Godzilla, and this. But
right,
yeah, I don't know. It's like which is weird. I feel like they should have just dove in deep and just made her like the star human character in these movies rather than like a supplemental character, rather than have all these like random ass one-off characters that like you're not ever going to really care about because like they're not going to be around for more than like a movie. So why not focus more on her? But
yeah, but you could watch her grow with the movies.
Yeah, there you go.
There's good stuff in there. I like to look at this like glass half full type of thing.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, if it was a wrestler, what wrestler would it be?
Ooh, I know exactly what I'm saying about this. It's a specific time in the wrestler's life, too. Stone Cold, WrestleMania 19.
Oh, boy. That's, I guess I'll just go with that, too, because, yeah, it's, it's like kind of like two bum knees, but still puts on a good performance, and you remember it.
It's the last great Stone Cold match, and this was the last great Godzilla movie for a little while.
for a little while.
For 6 years.
For 4 years, or unless you're not counting Godzilla 2000.
I'm not counting that. I'm talking great, top notch.
Oh, okay. Then yes. Okay. There's a lot of hate mail coming from Godzilla 2000 for Godzilla 2000 fans.
Well, I think I defended that movie pretty well.
Yeah, well, a lot better than I remember it being when we rewatched it. Yeah, I'm just going to steal your Austin
You could also say Ric Flair WrestleMania 24. Same idea.
I was thinking about that. I was like, it's he's all flabby and stuff. This Godzilla's he's a beefy fella, but he's a toned beefy. He ain't no saggy Ric Flair. So, he's still in top form. His problem is he was in too much of a top form.
If this were a BDF episode, This Ain't No Saggy Ric Flair would be the name of it.
Well, find a way to work it into your next one there. So
I'll try.
I don't know who wants to go first in the rankings. I never remember who went first the last time.
I'll go first this time. I have nothing to hide. 5 stars. This movie's great.
5.
Definitely a recommendation from me.
I'm actually going. I don't often rank below you, but I am going to on this one. I'm going to go. I'm going to go 4 stars on this one, or upper mid Carter. You're going main eventer. I'm going upper mid Carter.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I think it gets 4 stars from me because of the emotional tear jerking of the last 30 minutes. If it didn't have that, I might have actually gone 3 on this one. But it's good. It's just it's like the '90s series, to the max in certain points.
Sure.
But
I think as far as the '90s movies go, there are 2 great ones and a bunch of okay ones.
Yeah, I would agree with that. To me, it's like this. It's Biollante and Mothra. Like the 3 good ones, but then it's some mediocre ones. But it's good. It's good. It's not one of my top favorites, but
it's one of mine. It might be in my top 5.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
it would be 5 or 6 somewhere in there. I just like this one.
Yeah, I know a lot. Yeah, a lot of people do. I like it too. Obviously, I gave it 4 stars. That means it's really good. but I just
our rankings are different and they're more personal. So
yeah,
it's just the way it is.
It's just that first 25 minutes of the movie just feels like a long time to me. That's all.
I understand. I guess maybe I was eating some popcorn watching it. I really took the movie aesthetic seriously while I was watching this one, and maybe that helped.
I was eating White Claws. Well then, I'll ask you, pick up any shit this week? That's my version of asking you.
I tried, but I didn't find anything. I went to 3 stores, nothing I needed, and I wasn't going to pay $20 for that 12-inch Mechagodzilla that I have no room for.
Oh, the Curio one that is still lingering around Targets in our area?
Yes.
Yeah.
I should, but I feel like I'm this coming for the next episode. I'm going to have something that I want more.
I lost an auction for a late 70s, very hideous looking bendy Godzilla, a little bendable figure. Yeah, it went for too much money, more money than I was willing to spend for such a hideous looking figure. But I had some bids in for that. I'll keep it at that's more just a little fun thing that I want. But the only also for whatever reason, just a light 2-week period for purchases. The only thing that I got was the PlayStation 2 version of Godzilla Unleashed, which is the one that was the motion control one on the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play the Wii version that had 1 million characters in it, which is the only good thing about it?
If I did, it was with you for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I can't find my Wii copy. I can't imagine that I got rid of it. But the Wii one had Biollante, you had even more versions of Godzilla. Godzilla 54 was an unlockable character. Varan was in it. They made 4 or 5 original characters. And but it kind of sucks because it was all motion controlled, and so it never played super well. But they made a PS2 version, which is basically Godzilla Saves the Earth with slightly upgraded textures, and the only new monsters you get are Batra, which is just an awkward reskin of Mothra with a little bit of like new assets created, but like not really. And it's Batra and one of the original monsters they made. But yeah, it's like it plays like shit. It's
that's
like,
too bad.
I guess like they didn't like. I was like reading that like it just this isn't the right term, but like when they were like optimizing it or whatever, like they just didn't do it properly because like when you do like the 4 monster like battle royal, right? Like which is like one of the most like fun things you can do in those games. Like the game like grinds to a halt. It's so slow. Like and it's just like it's miserable feeling. And like same thing like when you're like you can just tell like they just took Godzilla Save the Earth, they did a copy paste, did a little like kind of palette swap type thing for Batra. And like dumped in this other like original monster they created, and like you got this like bare bones like version of like Godzilla Unleashed where it's like the story is like kind of told through text, and it's like, but it plays worse than like the games that came before it. It's really something. Like
that's too bad.
Not good it is.
It might have just been like maybe like whatever they used to make it for the Wii, it just didn't translate well to PlayStation for some reason, whether it's like the architecture or the engine or something like that. They just didn't jive. Maybe the code was off.
I don't know, because they didn't import anything from the Wii version. Like the Wii version has all these like different arenas, and like the Wii version has like tons of extra, like Titanosaurus is in it. Like they added like tons of monsters. Now granted, it also doesn't play well because it's like the motion controls are kind of buggy and stuff, but it like, which is too bad. Like I remember like getting the Wii version going like, oh, this is not nearly as good as Godzilla Saves the Earth.
Yeah.
Which is still, I think, like a really, really fun fighting game and stuff like that. And
I still play Melee on Xbox. I stand by that as the best Godzilla game.
Yeah, I think Melee and Saves the Earth are very equal standing. I think the only thing that Saves the Earth gets the little nod for is like more monsters, but I think everyone kind of, I think they're both fantastic. So.
Yeah. I just have Melee on Xbox, and I'm just like, the graphics are sweet, all the characters are good.
Saves the Earth has the random Star Fox style like levels too that are actually like a lot of fun. That I'm like, oh, I kind of wish like you got like more of these. One being Mogira in an asteroid field chasing after Space Godzilla, done in a much better way than it was done in the movie.
That is the worst looking part of any Godzilla movie.
Yes, without a doubt. There's nothing that wins the Razzie, if we were giving out Razzies. So I think looking at our calendar, this will come out the 23rd.
Yeah.
We'll do an episode on the 7th after that, which I then think, then that means the 21st is Con Christmas.
Yep.
So
2 more episodes.
We were talking about this offline, and we've covered a lot more Godzilla movies than both of us realized. So I don't think the deck of cards really works anymore. So how about this? If you pick the era, and if you want it to be Godzilla or non-Godzilla, I could, on the spot, knee-jerk reaction, pick a movie.
Okay. We haven't touched it yet. Legendary.
Oh boy. And
this, I'll add, this can include Pacific Rim 1 and 2. Even though I don't think they're legendary. I forget what studio made them. Well, maybe they are.
No, they're legendary.
All right. This includes Pacific Rim.
Oh boy.
So you got those two. You got Godzilla 2014, Skull Island, King of the Monsters.
Yeah. I might actually say Pacific Rim there, because I feel like it'd be kind of cool to do those other movies when Godzilla vs. Kong may not actually be coming out. But, well, there we go. Pacific Rim will That'll be a nice little deviation there.
Yeah, I haven't watched that movie in years.
Same.
So it'll be fun. I remember we saw it in theaters, but it'll be fun to go back and watch it again. I have seen Pacific Rim 2, though, too. I won't tell you my feelings on that because I want you to see it unadulterated.
Yeah, I've seen little bits of it, and I was like, the second one's just a fucking shitty Transformers movie. I was like, that's cool. And then I didn't really continue watching it. So, but the first one I've seen it like a handful of times. Like, it's one of those things like you just kind of catch on like HBO or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, it's cool. So, but I haven't watched it in a long time. Definitely not with the critical eye that I watch movies for this podcast. So, yeah, it's a good one. There you go.
I remember liking it a lot when it came out and just being like, this is cool. I'll see this. And then I remember 2 didn't get great reviews, so I never saw it in theaters, but I watched it afterwards. And, that'll be saved for another day.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there you go.
So, that'll do it for this episode. 34 is in the books. Chris, you got anything to say to the listeners?
Happy Thanksgiving, you turkeys.